Ekabo, Ibe, Bawini Ibe. I just said, welcome, family. How are you doing, family? How are things? Ekabo, Bawini Ibe. Welcome. How are you doing, family? I'm going to repeat that again. Ekabo, Javon. Bawini, Obe. I just said welcome to our brother Javon. I asked him how was things, and Oba is king in the Yoruba tongue. So Ekabo, Bawini, Javon, Oba. Ekabo, Ibe, Bawini Ibe. So Ekabo means welcome. Bawini is how are things. Ibe is family. So Ekabo, Ibe, Bawini Ibe. All right, so welcome, family. How are things? Family. Okay? Ekabo. To everybody that's tuning in right now, Ekabo. Now that word is spelled, you start out with an E. All right? Space, K-A-A-B-O. Okay? That's Ekabo. All right? Means welcome. Okay? Bawini. Okay, that is B-A space W-O space N-I. Okay, so Bawini, Ibe, family, E-B-I, Ibe, family, E-B-I. So Ekabo, for everybody that's tuning in, today we're going to be talking about we have to take it one step at a time. Okay, evolution is a process. All right. A lot of times I hear dialogues and people are jumping from one all the way till three, and they're skipping the process about evolution. Okay, for the mind of our people to evolve. A lot of times we're moving too fast. We're going from A to Z, from 1 to 3, and we're missing the process in between. And just like making the cake will not come out right because the ingredients is missing. Okay? So now, we want to talk about having susus, okay, which a susu is spelled S-U-S-U. It's a in-house, if you will, banking system for family members to come together and put their money into, so that way they won't accrue interest like you would for a loan. And it'll also keep you debt free. Okay? So this is practiced amongst some of our African brothers and sisters in the motherland. Okay? Again, it's called a susu. A susu, S-U-S-U, is an in-house banking system, if you will, that will eliminate us being in debt, okay, and also help us to avoid the interest on top of the debt. Like when you buy a house, you end up paying for the house twice from the interest. Okay, now, if all of us had a susu, okay, and we came together and we all the family came together and we all, like 10 people, put in $100, and then over time allow that money, that pot of money, to accumulate. Okay, then you would take that money and then you would buy a house. The family would live in that house. And then you would do the same thing again. That family member, that family will move out of that house. Okay, everybody put their money in the susu again. Okay, and then that person will be able to buy a house. Now, again, that will eliminate us being in debt and also paying interest on top of the debt, which means that we're going to pay for that property 2 times over. Also, what does this enable us to do? It's to accumulate assets, okay? Because now this house is paid off. Okay, now that house is paid off. Now we can use those properties as what? Rental properties. And so the beautiful thing is with the rental property, like say for instance, a recession or something that happens, okay, you don't have to be concerned about paying a bank back for the debt that you're in as well. So that's the beautiful thing about that too. Okay, then also it allows the family to be able to accumulate generational wealth. Now, let me deal with this topic that I just put out on the table for us. Okay, now the only way that's going to happen is us first being reprogrammed. Before we start a program, first we have to be reprogrammed. A lot of us are trying to start programs for the people. However, the people's mentality is not in a state where they are going to be in harmony with the actual system that we're establishing. So in other words, you can't have a program work properly, like coming together as one, until first the mindset of the people has been reprogrammed. Because the only way we're going to be able to interact with one another and see each other as family is first we got to change the vision of the mind. Okay? Your vision is first mental. It is spiritual first. The mind is what influences your perception, or you can use it interchangeably, your view of a certain thing, right? So a lot of times we get so upset about why we're not doing things as a people. It is because our minds have not been conditioned as it was prior to us being enslaved to see one another as family. Family only exists when there's unity, when there's love, and there's unity in the midst of it. That is what builds a strong family. Okay? It's moral principles. Moral principles instilled in a person will influence their mentality, and in turn, it will influence their conduct towards their family member, because they have been raised up to view their neighbor as family and not some stranger like us over here in the Western Hemisphere. Okay? So first we must be reprogrammed before we start any programs in our community. No one will put their money into a susu until we have what you call in Swahili, imani. That's I-M-A-N-I. It's Swahili for faith. Okay? Until we have trust in one another, which we have to restore that due to what has occurred to us because of slavery. Okay? Because now we have been severed, and a lot of us don't even see each other as family. This is the reason why a lot of us attack each other, because mentally we have been programmed to think that we are enemies. I will never give you this fantasy a family will never get into any disagreement. What I do submit to us as eBay, as family, okay, is that if we set up a system in the community that will be able to be a conduit for conflict resolution, then I truly, sincerely, and I am definitely persuaded that we will see things transform before our very eyes. So we have to regroup. And the first thing we must deal with before we establish any programs in the community, we must first deal with our mentality first. See, sometimes people put the cart before the horse, if you will. No one will ever come together until we first love each other. Love will only occur if our mindsets have been programmed to love each other. Believe it or not, love is still actually a programming too. The reason why I love my cousins so much, and the reasons why my cousins and we love one another so much, is because our elders in our families raised us to love each other. Whenever we got into a brawl, follow me closely. Whenever we got into a brawl, our elders would intervene and would bring us to our senses. Now, I do understand that some of us will say that we had the sense knocked, out of us. I would, differ on that. I would like to say that our elders actually knocked some sense into us. You understand? So when my aunties and my uncles intervened and they brought the belt, that belt helped to whoop some sense into us. Okay? when we got slapped for running our mouths to an elder disrespectfully, that knocked some sense into us. Right? Right? So correction is what actually had caused us to come to our senses. Correction caused us to come into our senses. Now, the only way that the African can actually come to their senses is if they receive information that will correct the miseducated mindset that we have, which stems from colonization. The only way that the African elder, men and women and children alike, can come to our senses is then by having information that will correct the error of our mindset. So in essence, accurate information will knock us, if you will, because it's a blow. Why? Why is it a lethal blow? Because all my life I was trained to believe in this religion. And all my life I was trained to believe that our spirituality is wrong. So the only way then that we can come to our senses is by those of us who are knowledgeable of our spiritual system to introduce those who have been misguided about our systems and to show them that it is not what we have been taught inaccurately. So now you have this polarity, okay, that has germinated on a global scale and has persuaded the African relative over in Africa that we enslaved them, right? And then you have the miseducated mindset of others who are dispersed throughout the diaspora that they are not African. I have heard people say from certain Caribbean islands that they are not African. That is a misguided, colonized statement that we make as a people when we deny our African tie to the motherland. That is our mother. That is where we are all birthed from, whether you live in Brazil, whether you live in Jamaica, whether you live in any of the Caribbeans, the Virgin Islands, Barbados, okay? We are all descendants, all descendants. We are all children of the motherland. This is the reason why those in Brazil practice Ifa. Because our ancestors who preserved our traditions throughout the diasporas, just like over in Haiti practicing voodoo, that comes from Africa. So it's this miseducated information that we have received, that we have to have the truth knock the lies out of us so that we can come to our senses. So before we start any programs that will help our people to elevate, we must first elevate in our consciousness prior to us starting any programs, because if we do not go to the root of the problem, you will see us congregate and you will see the chaos that will happen because of the mindset of the African man and woman that has not been dealt with, the purging of the colonized views that we have of ourselves individually and collectively. Due to us being miseducated, I want to say Ikabo to every eBay, every family member that's tuned in at this time. All right? Adupe, thank you. And also I like to say Bawoni. Bawoni eBay. That means how are things, family? Back to the program at hand. So now, before we then can establish solid programs, we must first program the mind, and then we can see the programs that we establish. We can see those programs be effective, and you will see that the participants will be actively engaged because they have been reprogrammed and they have been reintroduced to the mindset of the African. Okay? The reason why a lot of us go outside of our neighborhoods, outside of our villages, okay, and do not return is because we have not been taught for us to gain information and then disseminate information. We have not been taught to go gain knowledge and wisdom and understanding, gain an occupation, bring that occupation back to the community and hire your own so that the dollars will circulate within the community. The reason being, for there being no unity in our communities, commune, to fellowship in unity. It's not a community. We will not fellowship in unity until we have the right mentality. And the right mentality must be taught to us The basis of that and the nucleus of unity is correct information that is applied, which will in turn affect the African's action, will influence our social life with one another. Right? So the social ill, the illness that we have of quarreling and getting into fistfights, shooting at each other, disowning each other, not supporting one another. The reason why the African has such a problem with this is because the African has been stripped from the African mind. They have literally been taught out of the African mind, and they have been taught into a Eurocentric mentality via slavery. So the reason why we have no regard for our brothers and our sisters getting shot down in the street is because colonization has numbed us to the plight of our own people. The reason why the African does not champion his or own heroes, such as Shaka Zulu, Queen Azinga, Ya Asantewa, Nat Turner, Dudi Boukman, Toussaint Louverture, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur. The reason that the African does not champion their heroes is due to the fact they cannot know something that they have not been taught. Teaching means to be made aware. So the reason why the African is not aware of his or her action is because they're surrounded by other African men and women who they themselves are also incarcerated. So because of the mind of the African being incarcerated, he or she cannot think clearly enough to intervene when his or her brother and sister is doing something that is wrong, because they too have that same wrong mindset, which impairs their moral compass and keeps them from missing the mark. It is accurate information, eBay, that guides the conduct of a man or a woman. It is information that stimulates the brain, that causes a reaction from the man or the woman. Why do we see foolish actions of our fellow African, man and woman and adolescents alike? It is because we have been taught to embrace foolishness. We have been taught to entertain foolishness, which is buffoonery. Buffoonery means that you literally are receptive to foolishness. And it also means that you entertain foolishness, meaning that you participate in the foolish activities. So now the reason why we're in the state that we are in is because the African man and woman has not first dealt with their mind. Okay? Now, I will put this on the table very confidently. The reason why relationships do not work well in our community is because you have two mentally damaged people. Mentally, which influences the emotion. You have two damaged people trying to come together to build a stable relationship. And how can one do so when he or she is not mentally stable? So, how can we then birth healthy and stable relationships when we are not mentally healthy or mentally stable? The African man and woman must first, before we come together and start families, we must first have the right mindset. We must first be healthy in our minds. We must first be purged, and we must also be healed of the mental damage that we have experienced and our broken hearts that we have acquired from past relationships due to the mindset, due to the miseducation of the African man. Let me be very specific in what I mean. The miseducation of the Oba, the king, or you could say Oheni. Okay? Oba is Yoruba, all right, for king. Oheni is Twi for king. Or you could say Negos, all right, Negas, right? Which that's Ethiopian for king. Okay? Now, with that being said, the reason why, and I promise you can't debunk this, the reason why the African man does not view the African woman like he should is because the African man has been programmed to view the African woman as less than an Olori, which is Yoruba for queen, or Ohima, which is Twi for queen. The African man has been programmed to see his queen as a sex toy, as a plaything, as a bitch, okay? Meaning inhuman. Now, if one has a view as a woman as a bitch, which is inhuman, what way then do you think that that man is going to do to that woman? How do you think then that that man's conduct is going to be in a social manner when this man has been programmed by gangster rap, which I despise and should be banned out of our villages? How then can this man who has no father there, right? No one there morally to raise him right. Now, some fathers are there, but it's just like they're not there because they're not training their son correctly. Okay? And or nephew, and if you're elder cousin, whatsoever the situation may be, right? These young men are then left to turn to the TV. And now our young men are, instead of being raised by mature adults, they're being raised by brainwashed, money-hungry, misguided young men who don't know who they are and don't know who the woman is. And then now they have dysfunctional, mentors like Young G, like YG, who himself is misguided, who keep calling out women bitches, right? YG called, he a blood, call out women bitches, and he pride himself on the fact that he taught our young men to call out women bitches. If you don't believe what I'm saying, go listen to the song that he did with Nipsey Hussle before he transitioned. Last time that I checked. And in that song, the lyrical content, he said, I taught you how to call the women bitch. That's exactly what he said. This is the reason why. One of the multiple reasons why the African man is not in his right mind. The other reasons is because he intoxicates himself. He takes illegal drugs, which is infused with chemicals. It's not like what the Rasta man and the Rasta woman, those who follow after Rastafari, know is natural from the earth. The true Rasta man and woman will never mess with what Olodumare, the creator, has created. It's natural. And then they use it for medicinal purposes and meditation. The average African man does not use the herb in that fashion because he's been taught or she's been taught via gangster rap that it's okay to get high. There's nothing wrong with puffing all out, right? They drunk themselves. They high themselves. Then you got other gangster rappers talking about they popping Percocets. Okay? So we must first deal with the mindset of the Oba, of the Ohim, of the Niggas, the kings. We must deal with their mindset first. Then you will see the transformation of the African man. Until the African man rids himself and the African woman rids herself of the wrong mindsets, we will continue to see the chaos that we experience in our communities. And we will never taste unity, and we will never have victory against our real enemy that is the conduit of all this chaos. The reason why the African man and woman does not see clearly is because of their spiritual vision is impaired. It is impaired by the falsehoods that have been taught to him or her about how the African man conducts himself. Let me give you an example. Why is it then natural when an African man or woman misconduct out in the public is looked upon as, oh, that's just the way we act? How many of you heard that before? Oh, I'm not surprised. Listen, there was a time, and I know tomorrow, all praise to be unto Olodumare, I'll be a total of 43 years old. Understand, I lived during the time before gangster rap even came into existence. I seen what happened to our villages once this corrupt genre of music was implemented. Okay? I seen how that tool for massive destruction, how it influenced the mind of our African men and women alike and children. All of us. I see how it stagnated the mind of the African man and woman and kept us acting like we were adolescents, like as if though we don't understand how life works. We've been programmed to think that the foolish life is the good life. I'm going to say it again. We've been taught that the way of the fool is the good life. And we've been taught that wisdom is not cool. So now we have the mind of the African man and woman who has been programmed that dysfunctionality is the end thing. To have sex before you married. Oh, that's not cool. You're not cool if you haven't had sex before you're married. Something is wrong with you. So we've been taught that something is wrong with the right thing. So our young men and women then go around thinking that it's okay to be sexually involved because they have these lyrical contents in these songs, that influences the mind, because now you're sending out a frequency which influences the mind. Lyrics influences the mind. It shapes the thought of the listener. So now the listener then thinks, well, it's cool to get drunk. It's cool to get high. It's cool to have sex before I'm married. And if I'm not walking around boasting about what I have and what they don't have, and if I don't have on the latest designer clothes, and if I'm not driving a high dollar car, then I'm nothing. So now, you got the mind of the African that been taught that getting high, getting drunk, having sex before marriage, being riotous, all right, being chaotic, are women included, okay? Chaos, them twerking on the videos, all right? You see multiple women these days. I've never seen so many butt shots in my life. I have never seen so, and then the sad part about this, you even having grandmas. You have grandmothers that's standing in line with the younger generation with her butt up in the air. You have aunties standing in line with the younger generation with their butt facing the cameras up in the air. And then you got little girls. They're allowing the little girls now to stand with their butt towards the camera with their butts up in the air. Family, eBay. What more do I need to say? We must return back to the ways of our ancestors. We must reconnect with manhood initiations, with womanhood initiations, where the elders, the board of elders like myself and so many others who are in their right mind can share this information and to reshape the thinking of the elders and the youth. Okay? You got grown men walking around still using ebonics. Okay? There's nothing wrong with cornrows. See, a lot of us, we talk about that, but that's an African hairstyle. So nothing wrong with cornrows, because cornrows And some women, they talk about it. Oh, he got these cornrows in the hair. Oh, he got these braids in his head. First of all, that's an African hairstyle. Let that be known. That has nothing to do with him trying to be a little boy. It's only when he walk around with his pants sagging, okay, and he don't have a solid source of income. He living with his mama, okay, or his brother or his sister, huh? Okay? And he's still chasing a whole bunch of women, and he don't have no retirement plan. He don't have no assets. He don't have a car. The Negro don't even have a bike. Huh? Sleeping on everybody's sofa. Living off of that woman food stamp card. Huh? The black man, the African man, excuse me, I had to correct myself, because that's a color. The African man has been emasculated by this foolishness that's being played on the TV and on the radio and on social media. The African woman, likewise. We need to show our people a better way. The only way that we're going to come together in unity is us as the adults in the community start training our young people, okay, that picking up a gun is not the way we do it as Africans. See, we've been programmed that that's the way we do things, but that is not historical fact. It is a cultural fact. Prior to slavery, prior to gangster rap coming into play, prior to all these filthy lyrical contented singing men and women, rapping men and women, until all this garbage, which I call it that because it need to be thrown away. Why? Because it's trash and it is not benefiting the African man and woman by no means. When somebody can show me evidence and proof where gangster rap has benefited the African man and woman and benefited the African community, then I'll stop talking about it. I won't say nothing else. Until a person can prove to me that a woman that talks about sucking on a penis, swallowing a man's penis like a Coca-Cola bottle, Little Kim, okay, sexual explicit women like, Caesar and, there's another one out there, but her name escaping my memory right now. When you got a young woman called Young Ma, who is a homosexual woman, talking about I want nothing, I want neck, nothing else. You got a homosexual woman, Young Ma. A homosexual woman talking about oral sex being performed on her. But we don't see nothing wrong with that. I'm going to say it again. You have a homosexual young lady. Another one is a part of this group called the Internet. When she's singing, "Girl, you don't know your worth." Huh? It's a group called the Internet. It's a female singing that song. She's singing that song to another woman. And then you got not Remy Ma, but you got Young Ma rather, that's talking about another woman eating her out. She said, I want neck, nothing else. Check the lyric in the song. Ooh. That's exactly what I did when I heard her say that. Ooh. Where have we gotten to? We will continue to see a dysfunctional community. You know why? Because the family makes up the community and the community makes up the nation. The reason why a lot of us keep getting ran over in all our communities, you know why? Because there is no unity. And there is not enough of this type of teaching germinating throughout the community, teaching us how to come together, how to heal together, how to support each other, how to love each other. Until we get to that point, we will continue to see the colonizer infiltrate our communities, gentrify our communities, keep shooting our elders, our young people, our men, and our women down like dogs in the streets. The true African man was trained to be a defender of his family. The true African man was raised to fight. A lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people don't understand this. We are missing the piece to the puzzle. And we will not be whole until we go back to the true way of the African man. The African men were trained to fight for their village. You want proof? Shaka Zulu. Shaka Zulu. You want proof? Thomas Sankara. Julius Nyerere. You want proof? Malcolm X. The Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King. That is the spirit of a true African man. Those are the spirits of true African men. These are men who laid down their lives for their people and refused to allow the colonizer to infiltrate. But we don't want to talk about those type of ancestors. We don't want to talk about the ancestors who fought on the ships. The ones who died fighting rather than being slaves. The women too. Ya Asantewa. Queen Zinga. Assata Shakur, who put her life on the line and refused to allow the colonizer to continue to infiltrate and oppress our people. So until then, until the African man and the African woman will arm themselves mentally, we will never see us move physically. We will never see us come together physically until the African man and woman has been reprogrammed mentally. This concludes today's session. Adupe Ibe for tuning in. My prayer is that you don't just tune in, but that you share these transmissions so that the mindset of our elders, of our peers, and our younger generation, consciousness will awaken. We need this information to knock out the misinformation so that way it will knock us into our senses. It will knock us into our right mind. We have to correct the wrong mindset that we have about ourselves